Hi, this is Janae Guy back at you with another one. In my last video, I covered the dynamics. I covered 8 dynamics, but in that first video, I covered up to 5. Dynamic 1, the first dynamic. Dynamic 2, the second dynamic. Dynamic 3, the third dynamic. Dynamic 4, the fourth dynamic. Dynamic 5, the fifth dynamic. I covered and explained what they are. And it's man survival. And all these are written in the fabric of the universe for man's survival and from the existence of man to survive. So I recap from the last video and I start back with the fifth dynamic again. I'll recap in this video. The fifth dynamic is the urge to survive for any and every form of life. These would include all living things, whether animal or vegetation or vegetable, anything directly and intimately motivated by life. It's the individual effort to survive, to make life survive. That being said, we are human beings, and our survival depend on us being ourselves against other species. And we are the dominant race of the species. So everything is under us. So anything that poses a threat to the human survival, we will fight against it. We will collectively come together as human beings to fight off that attack against our species. So anything that doesn't cause us a threat, we will live cohabitally together, like the animal kingdom, like the vegetation, like the plant, the trees. But there's no other dominant race more than the humans. And so we are at the top of the food chain, although we can be the food chain for some animals, but we're at the top and we're dominant. And so for our existence and our survival, we have different areas that we must progress through, and we must be working through all of them connectively from 1 to 2 to 3, right up to 8 and beyond. So in this video now, I just covered the fifth dynamic, and now I'm going to cover the sixth dynamic. The sixth dynamic is the urge towards existence as the physical universe. It's the drive of the individual to enhance the survival of all matter, energy, space, and time. The component parts of the physical universe, which we call MEST, M-E-S-T, matter, energy, space, and time. Okay? The individual actually has a trust for the survival of the material universe. Right? So, as an individual, actively, we individually has a thrust for the survival of the material universe, meaning matter, energy, space, and time. And all of this exists into any one point as per an individual. You are in a particular location in regard to matter, the physical sense, and everything that makes up that physical sense. Energy, the energy that is produced through the ruh, or the spirit of the individual being. Space, a particular moment or location in the universe. And then time, we're governed by where we meet, where all our body physical sense collide together and form, and that is a form in space of time. So that's MEST, and that is a sixth dynamic. And so we got to exist, we got to be in a physical form, we have to produce energy through our spiritual being, and then we occupy a space in a particular time, and we're governed by time. So that's the sixth dynamic. The seventh dynamic, the urge towards existence as or of spirits. Anything spiritual with or without identity would come under the heading of the seventh dynamic. Yeah, this is separate from the physical universe and is the source of life itself. Thus, there is an effort for the survival of life source. Okay? Thus, there is an effort for the survival of life force. This is the seventh dynamic. This is the spiritual sense of the being, and that occupies the seventh dynamic. So you have to have a sense of spiritually existing consciously in a physical sense of the body, but not of the physical sense of the body, more of the spiritual sense. I guess you get this mainly when you're dreaming. I guess you get it when you're sleeping. The ruh, or the spirit of the body, doesn't have to exist within its physical form because it doesn't need a physical body to survive in. Contrary to the connection of the spiritual being, the Thetan, that being that occupies, that can occupy inside the body, outside the body, and away from the body. So, because of the connection inherently from when the spirit is put inside the physical body to create that connection, there is a connection as long as you are living. When you die and the ruh leaves the body, spirit leaves the body, there is a disconnection. And for a moment, you feel connected. But when that connection is severed, you may feel at that point where you actually know you die. At that point where it's severed, the ruh and the physical sense of the body is severed, you know you are dead. You know you're in the barzakh, the other world. At that point, you know there's a disconnection. Yes, the ruh might feel attachment to the body, but after some time, it gets used to that it doesn't need the body. And that connection is lost. And so now it doesn't need anything physical to its survival. It's now moving into a different realm, and this is a spiritual realm. Okay, so that's the seventh dynamic. The eighth dynamic is the urge towards existence as infinity. This is also identified as the supreme being. Yeah, this can be called the infinity or supreme dynamic, which is God. So when you're in the seventh dynamic, you're in the spiritual sense of the body. But when things are cut off between the physical sense and the spiritual sense, and now you only have infinity, meaning to no end, it hasn't got an end, or it doesn't have an end that we can see in our understanding or in our existence, but it has an end in God's knowledge, which He encompasses. So that is the realm where we are a superior being, meaning towards the Creator. And when we say infinity, it has no end. Okay? It's for as far as it is allowed to continue, and we can't put any limit on it. But we call that the spiritual being because you're now in the realm of the superior, the Creator, and that is the God. And we call that, maybe we want to say, the God dynamic, the eighth dynamic. This is where you're not in the physical sense, but you are in the spiritual sense, existing. So, yeah, I've covered the eight dynamics, and these are the eight dynamics of survival. And it is man's as a being and his survival or the existence of the human race from conceptual of the spirit. The ruh was created thousands, millions of years before it was put into the physical body, and then as a survival, once it's put inside the physical body, it goes through a transition period until it exits the body again and it goes on another journey. So the doorway of the child being born to the doorway of exiting when we die, and we all will die. That window between the two can be short-lived or it can be long. But for sure, when we say long, it's not really long. So it's like a flicker of an eyelid from the time of creation to where you exist to the time of exiting the body to where we will continue to live in some form, but not in a physical sense. So I've covered the eight dynamics, and to give some realism to man's survival as a being, from a physical, metaphysical, physical, to again not physical, which is spiritual. All right, so like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be coming at you again with another video soon. Need to dig up the topic, and listen, guys, if there's anything you want to know or you're unsure about, just put it in a comment. You know, test me and me trying to find content to put out there. I actually thought that this 8 dynamic is relevant to individual who really don't understand why they are not functioning or why things are not working for them. And if your life is not settled, it's to do with the fact that you're not functioning on your dynamics. And if you're out on any one of your dynamics, it affects everything else. And you will not progress. You just won't. I mean, it's a fact. This is written into the fabric. So, have a good day. I'm out.